Mike Snyder, welcome back.
How we doing?
We're doing good, man. How are you? How's the holiday season so far?
So far, so good, man. Just trucking away. Little hiccups here and there. Families not doing like there. A couple people are sick with
Oh,
I can't. I don't
yeah,
want to say
everybody,
the
every,
illnesses, but
everybody's
you.
sick right now, man.
Oh, I
Like
know it's crazy.
stomach bugs. I feel like when I'm going out, I'm just playing a time game right now because I have
Hmm.
so many clients checking in sick. I have family members that are sick.
Me
Cliff's
too,
whole
man.
family is just well, they're sick every other week, but it's there's just so much going around right now.
There is, man. It's
And
crazy.
you just go to the grocery store and you just hear everyone like
It's
so
true. It's so true. But yeah,
but
aside from that,
you guys are all healthy, everyone's good in the little family over there.
yeah, knock on wood, my wife and I are doing all right, and we're just trying to stay, healthy for, with a baby on the way and stuff. So, just trying to stay safe. So,
I remember when my brother and sister-in-law were getting ready to have my nephew, and they were like during the because you're coming up not too far away, right?
yeah,
What
we're
are you,
like
March?
12 weeks out now. Yeah, we're coming up.
Like a
It's like a
bodybuilding show. You're like
yeah,
coming to the finish line 12 weeks
almost
out.
peak week. Yeah,
Yeah, peak week. And I remember that they were just, like extra cautious during that time. But I think that will even make good conversation for what we're going to talk about today because there's just so much stuff going around between people being stressed, people
yep,
being sick, people having to do parties, work parties, family parties. I did a poll on my Instagram because I had so many people checking in that were just so stressed out. I'm like, what do you guys want to hear? Do you guys want to hear about holidays, how to approach the holidays with eating? And everyone was just like, yeah, let's we want to hear about that. So I think
yeah,
that the conversation we have today will be extremely valuable for this time of the year. And we're going to go over our top three favorite ways to approach holiday eating, and we'll keep it real loose, real light,
yeah.
because I think we're probably going to line up with everything on this
Oh yeah,
in terms of like there's only so many different ways you can approach this, right?
exactly, exactly. I
So
agree.
are you kind of feeling the same thing like with your clients and just even in general? Like I was at the grocery store today, you could tell everyone is just spent, like everyone is so stressed out, like the holidays really put a lot of pressure on people.
Yeah, I feel like people are running all over the place just to get things wrapped up, prepped. Like it's just like I see a lot of stress. I do see a lot of stress coming from like all avenues, to be
Okay,
honest.
so like
So,
what are you doing for the holidays? Like what do you got planned?
dude, so we plan. This would be like if I was someone that's new and didn't have like still kind of getting my foot, my feet in the door with this whole process of health and fitness in general. Man,
Would you be
I'd be
stressed?
stressed
Yeah.
because I have multiple meals I eat out at, like with like friends, family, even like so like we're going to like my wife's side of the family. So she has two sides. So she has her stepmother side and she has her birth mother side. And we go to both like events. We got events at her aunt's, we got events at her grandparents twice. Actually, if we're counting New Year's, like three occasions, like I
So
probably have
much.
about double digit like events that involve food that I'm going to be at. so
Sure, sure.
so yeah, we got a lot on the agenda, and then throw my family into the mix. We have like dinner at my mom's and stuff. We're gonna do like next weekend. We're
So
gonna
are your
postpone
parents
it a week.
separated? So do you two separate things?
So my family lives like 2 hours north of where my wife and I live, but my wife's family all live here. So
Okay.
it makes it easier, because
Yeah.
with them, being under the weather, like my side of the family, like we're just postponing it a week, so it's kind
As
of
soon as
spread
they
it
told
out.
you were sick, you were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but inside you're like, "Yes,
Yeah, like yes,
one less
postpone
thing."
it. Yes,
Yeah,
let's space it, space the
yeah,
damage, right?
yeah.
So yeah, essentially, yeah, it's just a lot of unforeseen events that you can't necessarily be perfect at. And I really think that, stressing over it will make it 10 times worse. And I've learned over the years, like practicing it enough, I'm like, hey, this is like a small percentage of like my entire like journey throughout my own goals, so it's like it's
Well,
not
I think
just
that's why our insight into this is going to be valuable, because we've been doing this for a long time.
Yep.
And this stuff, fortunately, I've done this enough times and I've been in this game for long enough where it doesn't stress me out, because you just you already know going into it what it's going to be. And if you've been doing this for a long time, you just know how to approach these scenarios, so it
Right.
just you can go about it in a way that's not stressful and not overwhelming. Also, it's one of those things where this is very dependent on the person. For me personally, in my family, in my world, we stopped doing gifts and stuff like that a long time ago. So as a team, like as a unit, we came together. This was like early when I was in college, Keep in mind, there's no like kids until now. I have a nephew, but
Yeah.
everyone's adult. So everyone was like, no gifts. That's the rule. No gifts. You cannot bring gifts. So what ends up happening is all you're doing is you're going to hang out and have a nice evening and eat some good food and just do, in my opinion, what the holidays are all about, which is spend quality time being present with the people you care about most. So
Exactly.
that, for my family, this isn't like a tip, or although I guess like it could be a tip, like manage your life in a way, like build your life in a way where this stuff isn't stressful. So
Right.
that, I mean, whenever, because most people don't do that. And whenever I talk to someone, they're like, oh, I wish we could do that. So if you can come together as a family or as a team, and if you do find that these times of the year are particularly stressful because of like expenses and gifts and just the whole thing of the holidays, then that has been one of the best things for my whole family. Everyone agrees. It's unanimous that it was the best thing that we could do. And we all look forward to our time together as a family and close friends or whoever is involved, because it's just, you're just going to hang out. There's none of the gift stuff.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that too. We recently, like a few years ago, did that. We made a pact like amongst not my in-laws, but my mom's side. Like we're all like they have my brother and sister. I have 2 kids each, and we're like, hey, let's do a white elephant. We each get like one present for each other, random draw, and the rest, just buy some, spending limit for the kids. You know what I mean? Like it makes it so much easier, because when you're navigating around, like going out, buying multiple stuff for families, it just can add up, it can add up definitely for sure.
It's too much, man.
Yeah, it is. It's like with the time we have now, even it's like everyone's busy.
Some
So
people like it. Like some
yeah.
people are like givers, right? So
Yes.
like there are some people that their joy comes from giving. And if that's your personality, that's your personality. And that's, but there are a lot of people that get overwhelmed during this time. And I've had way more conversations with people who seem overwhelmed and stressed and are just get through the holidays instead of enjoying the holidays. When you're saying, let's just get through the holidays, it's kind of like a drag. So
yeah, I agree.
So that's kind of what we do as a family. And it's been a game changer. So, all right, man, let's get into our 3 favorite approaches for eating during the holidays. What you got for number 1?
All right. So my first one was having a plan. Now, there's context to this for sure. Having a plan, whether that's, hey, I'm gonna relax a little bit on trying to be 100% this week. It's definitely not gonna happen, right? Or A, like we have that option, or B, hey, maybe I'm like 4 weeks out or something, something like not 4 weeks, but like maybe like 6 weeks away from my first show. There's a lot of context to how you need to approach the holidays, whether you're a lifestyle client or you're just, looking to stay fit or you're looking to compete, right? There's a lot of context to this. So I think having a plan is key because that'll allow you to elicit that confidence that you need. Because if you can go in with confidence and be like, hey, listen, I'm going to enjoy some good food. I'm going to have a good time with our friends and family, but I'm also going to, keep some structure within my, habits that I've learned with, anything that I've been practicing with, tracking and, just being mindful of my food. Like I'm going to, just help apply some of those habits, but at the same time, I'm not going to stress about it. Right. I'm going to have some structure to it.
Can you go more into detail on the habits and just the skills? Cause I think that's important.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, like for example, I can even put this in my own like context of my own stuff. So like right now I'm knee deep in an off season. Like food's not an issue. But whether I treat my habits the same as I would if I was, just me either maintaining or trying to, be in a deficit. I try to, stick to a couple staple meals. I know I'm gonna go to my wife's aunt's one day, like on Christmas Eve, and then I'm gonna go to Graham's. I got 2 meals there that I'm like, hey,
2 in one day, or are those back to back? So like
2 in one day.
2 in one day. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So are you pretty much gonna like save up your calories for those 2 meals then?
To a degree, like I'll keep my breakfast normal, and I won't snack throughout the day. I'll just be keeping myself busy. There's plenty to do around, and I think that's a big thing is keeping your mind busy, keeping occupied. Kind of keep breakfast the same. It's typically a higher protein meal anyway, so just kind of prioritizing that. Yes, I think prioritizing like my protein more throughout the day, and letting the carbs and fats fall into place in these meals whenever we come up to them. I think that really does help. It's almost like I wouldn't say it's fasting, but it's like a protein fast, right? Like you're just like you're eating, predominantly protein, and saving more room for the fun stuff, right? The carbs, the fats at the end of the night. I think that's like a good structure I like to keep. I like to do that anyways. Like for the most of my it's really not a big change for me because I do that a lot. I'll have like that, and then probably my last couple meals at the end of the night, they're more heavily weighted in those things because
you tend to backload your food, like kind of like maybe have like a high calorie or high carb pre-workout meal and then kind of hoard the food for later so you can kind of get a couple back-to-back big meals before bed.
Yeah, so I do that a lot. I get some before bed because I'll wake up in the morning and I'll train, so it really helps in that end. So I think that taking a similar approach like that, if you are, and again, this is dependent on what you want to do. Like hey, I want to enjoy the holidays, but at the same time, I don't want to lose grip of what I've achieved or what I'm getting, what I'm working at right now. So I think just having that confidence in the plan of having a structure of there could be things like you can use like protein front loading protein, back loading carbs and fats. Maybe saving a little bit extra calories. Take like a day where you eat a little bit extra calories, like a refeed. A lot of those things can definitely play into benefit when it comes to setting up the way you want to approach your day of holiday eating per se.
Yeah, but I think you said something super important, which is context. There is a ton of context involved here. This is very, very individualized in terms of every single person is going to require something different and may want to approach this in a different way. So my biggest thing about this whole lifestyle is you should really do what you are most comfortable with. So for some people, for example, like let's take a bodybuilder for an example, and they have a show in a couple of weeks or even a couple months, whatever.
Yeah,
they're going to have to approach this very differently than someone who is not a competitor or someone who their whole life is not revolved around fitness or bodybuilding. So each person is going to have to approach this very nuanced, right?
Yep.
Like everything, like no one person is the same, no one person's mindset is the same, and no one person's goals are the same. So whatever you're doing and whatever your plans are, make sure you're doing it for you. There's a lot of in our space, there's a lot of talk and everything is black and white, and that's not how this stuff works.
No.
So in one instance, it could be very triggering for one person to hear, okay, you need to approach this methodically, strategically, and you need to like track your food and be very mindful. That might just completely throw somebody off. And the other example, to approach this very loosely, could also be very triggering for someone who has a completely different mindset, completely different goal, and is trying to achieve something different with their physique. So I have no problem with any person approaching this in any certain way, as long as it's the way that person is comfortable with, and it's your body. So you need to do what you're comfortable doing. I've spent many holidays, many birthdays, many special occasions, many vacations, tracking my food, bringing food scales, not indulging, just hanging out, letting everyone eat, doing my own thing with food. And you know what? I had no problem doing that because of what I was doing at the time.
Right.
On the other side of that, I've spent many holidays, birthdays, vacations being as loose as I wanted to be, enjoying all of the things that I wanted to enjoy. It doesn't matter where I'm at. It doesn't matter if I'm at work. It doesn't matter if I'm with, grandparents. It doesn't matter. I do what is best for my own comfort, my own goals. And if the people around you are care about you, they're going to understand. So I know that's difficult for some people to hear. I know that could cause a lot of anxiety, because a lot of times when you go into these situations, you're going to be the only one even thinking about this stuff. A lot of people aren't thinking about this. A lot of people are just thinking, let's go have fun, which that's fine too. That's their prerogative. But if you are on any form of fitness regimen, whether it's just lifestyle, bodybuilding, whatever, you're going to have to approach this in a different way than we'll say the general public. So that's kind of like my context disclaimer, because there is, you can't talk in black and white. We have to work in the gray with most, if not all things. So, so you also said like planning. I think planning is a really good tip, but also sometimes that plan is having no plan. So what I mean by that is I'm intentionally, that is an option. Going and doing nothing and just doing whatever you want, it's an option, right?
It is.
So that's option number one. So if you're have a special occasion or multiple special occasions, you can go and just enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that if it suits your goals. One thing I'll always say, and this is kind of like by and large for everyone, is I never think like gorging to the point where I'm just like completely sick is a good idea. Typically, people don't feel well after doing that. And it's just good practice not to just completely overdo it. Not that it doesn't happen. That feeling of like, that feeling when you're starting to, things just aren't even tasting good anymore. Like you're just not even tasting the food anymore. That's a good time where you're like, I'm probably overdoing it with the food. So I would always say, just keep that in the back of your mind if your plan is to just go and enjoy. Now with this plan, I will also say the special occasion isn't what matters. Right now isn't what matters. It's what we do before and what we do after. So when we look at a year of progress, we don't look at like the times we're sick or the times where, there's Thanksgiving or all of these different things. The reason it's important to be just consistent during all of these weeks in between, which is kind of how I always like prep my clients, is when I tell them, okay, we got X holiday coming up in about a month. Let's work now because now is where we make progress. And now is the time where we set ourselves up so we can just chill on the holiday. You can't really go and do much damage at all if you are consistent during the other times of the year. So that's where I really like to put the most of importance, is all of the weeks in between the special occasions, all of the downtime, which is the majority of the time, like 80-90% of the year. It's like there's nothing going on. So I really encourage people to be choosy with their like splurge meals, because it may not seem like it in the moment. It might just be a random Friday or whatever. But once you get into these times where you have multiple things coming up and, things become like very eventful, most people don't have like a special occasion every week. Is that really special if you're doing it every week? I don't really think so. No. So I always place a lot of emphasis on the downtime, because that is the time where we work. That is the time where we're consistent. And that's the time where we hone in on those skills that you're talking about. And we set ourselves up so we can have flexibility when we want. We can prepare for you never know what's around the corner. You could get sick. Your whole family's sick right now. You could get sick. You could, have like a surgery. You could have a vacation, whatever. Just be consistent when things are just chill, which should be most of the year. Then you could really approach these special occasions in any way that you want, which I also think is why you and I are like, we're good. We're not stressed right now, because we kind of handle our stuff during all of the other time. So you could go and have a really good time during the holidays.
I agree, man. I definitely think, and it's funny you mentioned that, bringing up like sometimes the plan is no plan. And I do, depending if I'm traveling and, I'm in a pinch for time, like say I'm super busy, like fortunately, like I'm like busy this year too, but not as much as I have in previous years. Like a couple I can name off the top of my head. Man, there's times that I'm not taking protein powder or something to my mom's house. You know what I mean? So yeah, just enjoy it. Just have a couple drinks, have some good food.
Is your family? Okay, so how does your family handle it when you're at dinner or you're doing your thing in any of your, whether it's off season, whether it's prep? Because like for me, my family, my friends, anyone who knows me, I'm a little unique in that people don't give me shit. Even if I'm at work, like when I was working at an office job, people get the idea that like, okay, like whatever I say isn't going to affect what he does anyway. So you don't get a whole lot of comments. Most people I know get a lot of comments in social situations and just functions or whatever. So do you get any of that in your world?
I do. I did initially. So I feel like everyone has to go through that part, I think, to get to where we are with our family. Like my family just knows. They're like, oh, it's just Mike's weighing his freaking fruit again. It's just like it's definitely look the other way now. Like it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. It's even if I'm like I'm pretty, I don't know, just like I like to know. And every now and then, like there's times where if I feel like eyeballing stuff, I do, and if not, I'll weigh out my glass of wine or something. You know what I mean? It's like, but my family just looks, like, oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah, just another day, another day in his life, So it's cool because like even my wife's family like gets it now too. So it's like I came into the picture on that side of the family when I was prepping. So it's like that was a very the people were understanding, like, and I love that. But I think that coming into that, like, I'm glad I've like got the reps before that, because there has been so many times in the past before all these situations, like where it's like, hey, like, man, it used to really get in my head sometimes. Like, oh, like so and so is giving me crap for tracking my stuff, and immature me in the past would be like, well, I'm doing it. Like it's none of your business, blah blah blah. But it's just now it's like being in this like having years of experience doing this. It's like It's like, hey, they don't know. Like, so like,
Isn't it
but
interesting that that kind of behavior in terms of tracking and weighing is like odd? Isn't like to me it's kind of interesting that that's like odd to people
yeah,
because it's such it really is such an important skill. Not that you have to weigh your food all the time. I prefer to, but not that people have to do that. But
right.
I do think people should do it for a small bit of time to learn portion sizes and
Yeah,
just how numbers work and how calories work and how many calories are in certain foods. I think it's a lifelong skill that really goes a long way to the point where I mean it impacts your physique, it impacts your health. So I always find it odd that that's other people find that odd.
yeah.
That's
It's practice for the game, man. I mean, you know what
yeah.
I mean? It's like if you look at this process like, hey, this is gonna help teach you some lifelong skills. Like,
Yeah.
it's you're just getting your practice in before you go to the big games, and there happens to be a
What's
lot of
the
big games
weirdest
this year.
situation you've been in where you like busted out a scale?
Oh man, so I was. It's funny you say this. I it was my okay my contest prep in 2019. I was in a hotel in Kentucky, and we were there for my I want to say my wife's birthday at the time, and we were all eating breakfast at the event, and I brought I had some eggs that I threw on my scale, but at this from the event I went got a plate, got another plate, threw it on, but then I like I like took the peanut butter out of the I took the peanut butter out of the jar I had and put it on rice cakes, but then I like messed up the scale. Like the scale was kind of off balance. So
I
like,
hate
I
that.
gotta put it back. I like put it
Yeah.
baand like wiped it off and then put it back on. And my wife's
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I messed up tracking
Yeah.
my peanut butter." I was like so mad, but yeah, and it was like in front of all my friends. But again, like they knew what I was doing. They're like, "Man, like you do this all the time." Like, yep, I've been doing it for like 5 months straight right now. So,
Scales act funny when they're on a slant or like when a little bit of wind hits them. Like
mhm.
they start getting all crazy. Have you ever had your food scale like short out when you're weighing something? So like it'll
Oh,
just like in like certain scales will do that when they start getting low on batteries, they'll start just
yes.
shorting out. So you'll be like having to put the protein that you weighed on there back into the tub,
Back in
rinse out the
the
cup, put the a new scoop on there and have to do
yes.
that a couple times and you're like, God, this thing's shorting out on me. So yeah,
And you don't
scales
have
act
that
wonky
extra
sometimes.
battery laying around because they're super, who's carrying those kind of spare
Those little
batteries around? Those
circular
circular.
batteries. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Like who's carrying those? Like no one has extra one of those. No
Uh,
one.
oh my God. All right. So what's your second recommendation in terms of how to approach the holiday eating?
Yeah, so man, we hit a big point of it actually. Communicating. I think that's a big thing. At least for the first timers, anyone that's been foreign to this is like, you know, again, context dependent. If let if someone's like, hey, why don't you go up? There's more food up there. This common thing I hear. Hey, there's more food up there. Come on, come get some more. And you're like already stuffed. Like, hey, listen, like I'm practicing my healthy habits. I try to keep some, just like conversing. Let me back up. It's kind of like letting others know like what your intentions are if the question presents itself to you. So like, oh, what are you doing that for? Or just like the scale thing, like why are you weighing your food, like or something. And I'm not saying bust out your food scale at the next Christmas party. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like if
Although
you get
there
like
are, I do so like I hear when people say that, and I
mhm,
do agree with that to a certain degree. But if you have a deadline,
yes,
bust out the fucking
bust it
scale. Do
out,
what you
yeah,
need to
do
do.
what you
Like
have
if
to
you have a
do.
deadline, you got a deadline.
Hmm.
So that's kind of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
nuanced area.
yes. So I mean, but if you're not stepping on stage or if you have
Right,
something
right,
going
right.
on, but at the same time, like even before I was competing, like I was like yeah, like I was still taking it to that extreme sometimes, but at the same time I've learned, I'm like, all right, hey listen, I'm just trying to keep it under wraps. I'm full, like right now I'm good. I don't need another plate. Like I had a couple cookies. I enjoyed it. Just
Mhm.
communicating. I think just like communicating your intentions with like the other people around you. Everyone's no one people question you because like yeah, it is like definitely not common for these like the way we live our lifestyles, right? So I think if you communicate it more with people and it gives people at least somewhat of an understanding. So I feel like it's like setting yourself up for less questioning down the line. I do some crazy stuff. Like I'll go eat like random stuff here and there to hit my macros for the night. My father-in-law, my mother-in-law, they don't say nothing to me. Like,
Right.
it's like they know they're like, it's like,
They're like,
yeah, it's
there's Mike
yep.
taking shots of olive oil in the kitchen at 2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning and getting his fats in.
Or yeah, getting the I don't know how you get the egg whites in, man. I just
Dude,
I'm trying
I
to wrap my
always
head
get
around that.
so many comments whenever I post anything about the liquid egg whites because I've been doing that for so long in terms of like it's just such an easy way to get in an extra 10 grams of protein when you don't want
It
to
really
add in
is.
protein from a protein shake, or it's the end of the day and you don't feel like cooking beef or chicken. It's just so it takes 2 seconds.
Yep.
It doesn't
It's easy.
taste, it doesn't taste good, but it doesn't like it's not the worst thing in the world. Like
It's
the
not like you're
taste thing
plugging
for
your
me,
nose and taking it.
no, it's not. I'm not that like taste. It's just like okay, so what? It doesn't taste that great. It tastes like it looks. Like it
Yeah.
tastes like egg whites. So it's just whatever. So I'll just
Yeah.
I will. I have no problem taking in. For example, the other day I posted on my Instagram story that I ran out of protein, and I did. I ran. I had no protein on hand. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to the gym. I'm not going to have protein for a couple hours. I had my breakfast a couple hours ago. I want to get in 25 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So here's the liquid egg whites. Boom. I didn't want a heavy meal before I trained. So let me get these
Mm.
amino acids into my system, take the shot of egg whites. I think I paired it with gummy worms for God's sakes. So like my pre-workout meal was 30 carbs from gummy worms, sour, and liquid pasteurized egg whites. Guess what? I went to the gym, had a great workout. So
Gets the job done, man.
sometimes, yeah, it gets the job done. So whenever I post that particular technique, if you want to call it a technique, that strategy with my protein, I always get people commenting and they're always like puke face emoji. How do you drink this? Ew, I could never. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, I get the protein in. So
Dude, I make protein sludge all the time. I mean, we all do weird things, right? Like I make protein mug cakes all the time. Like if I'm low on protein, I'll just like throw it in the
yeah.
microwave. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm eating more of my protein mug cake because I'm low on protein today. Like I need it."
Do you find protein hard to get in? Because I found protein like I have 200 grams protein per day. I have no problem getting in protein. Like it's so easy. Like it's not a
Yeah.
thing. I like enjoy the protein sources. Like I've been even doing like huge rice bowls with vegetables and soy sauce and cutting up different types of meat, putting it in there, and you can get in like 50 grams of protein just right there.
Yeah. No, I like my limits around yours like somewhat like around it's like 240 and I'm like I do pretty well. Like honestly, I
Yeah, so
kind
you're
of
even more up. You're even more up there.
yeah, like I get a lot. I mean, like I get a lot of it pretty frequently, and I have so much. Like I'm on the road some like half the day, anyways. Like so, sometimes most of the day, but it's a lot of protein bars, Quest chips, like cream of
Quest
rice
chips
mixed
are
with protein
awesome.
powder. Oh, I love them. Like
Do
people could
you do
talk
two
crap on
bags at a
them.
time?
Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
are
me
good.
too.
They are
Yeah.
good. Barbecues has my heart. So
Yeah, barbecue and then the spicy chili one
oh,
is
the
pretty good
spicy
too.
Thai
Yeah.
chili,
Yeah,
that is good.
I really like those. Okay,
Yeah.
man. So is that did you do you have anything to add to that or
I
should I
guess like I think, yeah, the reason why I say the importance of that is like just because like I think a lot of people, at least that I've worked with and noticed the trend in, is like the root culprit of like why like someone I know it's not just one day, but like the other days around it that cause like, it's like someone falls
Yeah.
off that one day and then they never get back to it the next day and the next day. However, like I find that like what kind of is a preventative to that is like, yeah, you're communicating with someone and like showing them, hey, I'm doing this because of XYZ goal. I think that allows us to kind of we tend to fall victim of influence. So like someone be like, oh, just have it, just eat it. What are you freaking out about? Whereas
Yes.
in your head, you're like, no, I really don't want it, and but just to satisfy or please someone else, yeah, I'll have it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of clients that I've worked with in the past have run into situations like that, and I have myself even. So I think that yeah, just creating that better understanding up front and communicating that is key because you can avoid a situation like that, and which you may run into. But stick true to your guns, and I think definitely do what you want to do. Like
That's a really good point that you said about communication, and even I guess it's setting boundaries, but in a like enlightened way, in like a very non-confrontational way,
right.
in a very productive way. Because you're right, a lot of people do get comments
Mm-hmm.
and pressure, and I think a lot of people's families and close friends, I think that could be pretty brutal.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people, and that is very common, to the point where it's almost I'm going to indulge so I don't have to deal with
Hear it.
the blowback. Because
Yep.
then you got the whole family, you got extended family, maybe the second cousin or whatever is a complete dick, he's gonna be there, and then like you already know like the comments, oh, here's so and so with their little diet, how's your little bodybuilding going? And then everyone's like joining in, like, yeah, how's that going, are you doing this? And oh, you're not going to eat, are you going to eat? And so it's just like all eyes on you, and some people are like, screw that, I don't even want to deal with it, I'm just going to eat. And so that goes back to you might have to stand up for yourself in certain
Yes.
scenarios. And I do think the more that you do that, because we've all been in that position before,
Right.
right? And
Yep.
probably
Oh yeah.
even handled it even a little poorly. I think there's been times like that I could think about where I'm like, yeah, I think that I probably shouldn't have gotten an altercation over this. But I'm going to stand my ground,
Right.
and I'm not going to do that. So going into it, knowing, okay, this is this is what I can expect. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. At the end of the day, just it all goes back to make sure you're doing what's best for you,
Right.
and the other people will have to understand that. So
I agree, man. I agree.
okay. So my second one is more of like a methodical technique. This is for people that are counting calories or counting their macros, and for people who are very interested in, okay, how can I approach this in a way that I can enjoy, because I do want to enjoy, but I still want to make as much progress as I can during this time. So like if someone's working on fat loss, they're like, I really want to keep losing fat during the holiday, because I'll even always pose an option with my clients. I'm like, how do you want, if there's no deadline, like if we're not in a rush, I'm asking them, like, how do you want to approach this? What would work best for you right now? Like, what do you want to do? And a lot of times they're like, man, things are going so well, I really want to keep it going. Like I'm, I know 1 week won't hurt me, but I don't care. I want to keep going. But I still want to go and enjoy some things that I haven't had in a while. So what I'll do is something called a bridge plan. And how the bridge plan works is you'll actually plan ahead in advance. So let's say we got a holiday special occasion on like Sunday, right? That's when we're going to have the meal. And a lot of times with the bridge plan, you'll keep it to one meal. And that's kind of like also something that is very effective. If you could contain things, like sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you just have so much shit going on, like you said, where you just have so much stuff going on that you're like, I got back-to-back meals here. I got the meal, the next day. So you got to kind of do what you can.
Right.
But
Exactly.
in an ideal scenario, I would say if you're going, it depends how you're going to approach it. If you're going to go for like, let's blow this out of the water, let's just eat a ton of stuff, I'd really try to keep that to one contained meal.
Yes.
But and the more meals you have, the more conservatively I would approach each meal. Do you agree?
Yeah, because of the carryover of like,
Correct.
oh man, it's going to be spilled over a little bit on this meal and this meal because,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
So with this plan, I will work with the person, and you could do this on your own. It doesn't matter. And I will actually put together a numbers plan for them to go by leading up to the special occasion meal. So if the special occasion meal, let's say, for example, the special occasion meals on Sunday, let's say this particular person, these are just arbitrary numbers, is 200 protein a day, 200 carbs a day, and 70 grams of fat. So we'll start the bridge plan on Friday. So that's going to be 2 days before the special occasion. And I will deduce their calories. So we'll go, just to keep this simple, 200 protein, 100 grams carbs, 50 grams fat for Friday and for Saturday. So what we're doing is just planning ahead. So that gives us a couple days. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those additional numbers and we're going to add them onto the special occasion. Now, the special occasion meal, that's going to be a high carb day anyway. So let's say this person's high carb day is 180 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbs, 70 grams of fat. Now we're going to take all those numbers that we deduced from the previous 48 hours, and we're just going to tack those onto the Sunday. So we're going to go ahead and then give them 180 grams protein, 500 grams carbs, and 110 grams fat. Now that's a lot of food. That is a lot of food. And so the way that I recommend approaching this is what we were talking about earlier. Typically, like the special occasion meal will be in the evening, which I prefer, by the way. That's like in an ideal scenario, if you could have your special occasion meal as the very last meal before bed, that's the way to do it, because you're just having that meal and then you're not risking having a full day of food afterwards, where if you have the special occasion meal and in the earlier hours of the day, you might a couple hours later, even though you had a lot of calories, you might be like, I'm starting to get a little bit hungry. So this way you can have a really nice big meal before bed, and then you just call it and you get a great night's sleep. I love having big meals before bed. So I recommend, if possible, I know that this is another thing that's like, you can't always control when the family's having a meal, but if you can, I would make it the last meal of the day. I would just eat conservatively going into the meal, not do anything crazy, maybe some vegetables, some protein, keep your protein consistent, still get your training session in. That's another thing I would always like. I'm assuming you guys, whoever's listening to this, are training and working out, exercising, doing some form of fitness. So still do that. And then go and just eat whatever you want. So you can go, I mean, with 500 grams carbs, 110 grams fat, you can track it. You don't have to. I leave that up to the person. Again, this is what works best for the person. Some people are like, I want to go not track. That makes me feel good. Or I want to go and track. That makes me feel good. Yep. So do whatever works best for you. And then now you have a giant meal where you could have, I mean, there's not much you can't fit in with 500 carbs and 110 grams of fat. So you can have yourself a nice big special occasion meal, eat whatever you want. And most of the time people will then see a continued, they'll stay in their deficit because all of these numbers have been pre-planned. Even though you're having a big meal, sometimes you can't fit all of that food into one meal. You get full before you even reach your numbers. So you actually drop a little bit of fat that week anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen that happen before too, which is a huge benefit. I think that strategy's like an amazing, I actually utilized that with one of my clients, and he crushed that week because of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, man, like it was like this past Thanksgiving, actually. So I think that's a very beneficial, like, a way to bridge like your food and like plan ahead like that. I think that's very effective. Honestly, even I even every now and then, like I if I run into a situation where I'm in a, maybe I'm in a deficit, and I'm just like, numbers are pretty scant right now. I'm coming up on a situation where it's, again, I'm going to be eating out all weekend because I'm not going to be home. I'm not going to be, in my space with my stuff. I forgot some things at home. I'm gonna utilize that approach. Yeah, I utilize that approach. Just like kind of, I'm gonna push some of my carbs and fats to, that given meal. I mean, over a couple of days time. So yeah, I do think that's an effective plan. Actually, I think that's realistic for a lot of people, and sustainable. Because to be honest, are you gonna to your point? Are you actually gonna eat like 90 grams of fat in one meal, like, or like something astronomical? No, like, or 500 grams of carbs?
You could probably, and you could rearrange it. By the way, you could rearrange these numbers in any way that you want. Those were just example numbers. If you're more of a fat person than a carb person, you can start deducing the fats. And even times where I'll ask them, like, what do you prefer, carbs or fats? Because, like, let's say you want to eat a slab of ribs. Ribs get up there in fat. It's not hard to eat in over 100 grams of fat with ribs. So
yeah, that is true.
When you start adding in things like, hey, pass me that cornbread with butter loaded onto it, and this food's cooked in oil, and man, grandma sure likes to slap on that oil, and then you're getting into the cookies, and those are loaded with peanut butter.
Yeah,
I'm getting hungry right now just thinking about it.
Me too. Jeez.
Yeah.
That is true, though. I mean, oh man, it's just crazy though what you can do. That I think that's what we did. Even I was working with him. I was like, hey, he's like, I'm having this and this. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, yeah, I think maybe have more of the fat sides for the next day, because I think we only did it one day. This is a strategy we just did it upon like one day, so we pushed a little bit. Decreased the fats the day before, brought in the fats for the next day, and bada bing, man. Next check-in was like down crazy. I was like, oh, perfect. So yeah, it's
as long as you're cool with, having a couple days of lower numbers, which, let's be honest, like, that's not that bad. 2 days where your food is lower. I mean, it's still 100 carbs. Like,
yeah,
it's not terrible for 2 days. Not for 2 days. Like, no. Yeah, that's a rough. I mean, that's a tough bit for a week or two.
Yeah,
any prolonged period of time.
Any prolonged, yes, yeah,
yeah. But like for 2 days, it takes a little bit for you to start getting really, really hungry. And when you know that, okay, like in 2 days, I got this like huge meal. I'm already looking at the menu. Like, this is going to be awesome. We're going to have so much fun. It's not that bad. So again, I wouldn't recommend that for people that their mindset is a little more susceptible to things like EDs or there's too much restriction. Like, this is just causing me too much, it's causing me too much mental health problems. This isn't the approach for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
so
100%.
Because you're still tracking, you're still being super mindful. Like, this is still a really super mindful approach.
Right.
It's just another technique of being able to kind of go splurge, have a great time, and stay on track with your fitness goals.
100%.
So, okay. So that was my number 2. So what's your third one?
All right. So,
and then also, like, I don't know if we completely talked about how you're going to handle your own. So, like, along with the third one, maybe.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle this weekend? Like, which approach are you going to use?
Right. So, my third topic is, and this is what I follow through with even when I eat out. This is like one of my primary rules. I use it whether I'm in prep, I'm dieting, or even bulking, or maintaining whatever my fitness goals are at the time. Like, the same approach like goes to me. I kind of just to keep things habitual. My third tip is really just conversations are the primary focus. The family's the focus. The time spent with your loved ones is the focus. Food's just secondary. Food's like complements it, right? So I think going into, a lot of people will go into holidays stressing, freaking out because they know that food is a big thing in our culture, and it is. I mean, we can't deny it. However, I think that stress kind of overwhelms people to the point where that becomes more the focus rather than what you're actually trying to get out of it. So holidays are meant to be around friends and family. You want to be spending time with them, catching up with people you haven't talked to in a while or seen in a while. Like, I think conversations, you should really prioritize those things and really focus more on that and get your mind wrapped more around that than the food that might be there. Because if you can do that, man, there's times in the past, like I'll back up to my experiences of learning, and there's like, man, I would just gorge in food, right? And not to say that's totally wrong, like enjoy yourself for sure, but like I would engorge myself in food to the point where I got like 2 or 3 plates in, and it's like, Mike, you haven't even said a word. Like, have you
Yeah.
seen, like, you haven't talked to your cousins in a while. Like, they're over there at the table. I remember that when I was a kid,
Mike's
right?
like,
So
fuck my
yeah.
cousins. I'm
Yeah.
eating these cookies.
Screw that. The
These
fudge
cookies.
is right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I think like once I started, implementing that mindset, like, man, like there's times where I was like, oh, I still got a lot of food left on my plate. That's awesome. Cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just so engaged in that conversation I was having with, it was my uncle, or it was, one of my friends from high school that's a family friend I haven't seen in a while, things like that. Like, so I think really taking that approach can benefit most people, and not just holiday eating, but like eating anytime you're at a social gathering where, in the past it might have stressed you out. And you're freaking out like, I want to hit my numbers, but I want to, stay on track, or, I want to enjoy myself, but the food here, I just, it takes that guesswork. Not the guesswork. It takes that, that food focus away, I think, whenever we kind of really prioritize that. But I think that takes time and reps too at the same time. But
Yeah, I like that you're bringing up a lot of like mindset techniques, like not so much the method, but the way, the perspective in which you look at the whole occasion. I think that's really really important. And the longer that you do this stuff, you're right. The longer that you do this stuff, the better you get at it. It's like any other skill. I mean, food is food, but food is also a skill. The more that
yes,
you are in this lifestyle, the better you get at just managing food and even the way that you think around food. Because you're right, this stuff should be about the people as the primary focus. Not that the food isn't like great. That is
right.
great. Like that is
It
something.
is.
That's what people do to bond, is they bond around food. They bond around alcohol. Oh, we didn't talk about alcohol. Are you you got any tips for alcohol as well? Because I know you drink.
Yeah. So I like to set like a number, like of in my head, like, oh, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I'll probably have more than just like 1 or 2 drinks this,
Yeah.
for the holidays. So,
It is the season. I think a lot of people are planning on getting shit faced.
yeah, no, for sure. And I'll probably take one of these bottles back here to
Yeah.
one of these events. So,
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, I still, so personal preference wise, I still track. Like, even like I said, it doesn't matter what phase I'm in. I loosely track. And
Will you
I
track your
estimate.
food beforehand? So, like, let's say you have the event, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Will you plug everything into your food numbers before you go, so you're not thinking about it while you're there and you've already pre-planned all this in?
So it depends. So like being that my wife's grandparents, like they have like it's like a Slovak tradition where like they they have like set foods that you eat the night before Christmas. So like I already know we're gonna have like fish, rice, like, but it's just this stuff. It's amazing. It's called babeki. It's like honey dough, like bread pieces. Like, it's very good.
Yeah, that sounds
Like I
good.
know I'm gonna have all this stuff, right? So I'm like, I'll loosely put that in, and if I have a little more, I'll just plug it in afterwards. If I don't, I don't. But I tend to plan, like I'll plan like the meals I have in my house. Like, it's not much. I'm only here probably like for one of them. And then the one meal that like I'll go to my aunt's house. I'll roughly just like I'll enjoy some foods. Like, it's always like, it's great because people don't understand, like, you can have a decent meal actually at these events. Like there's ham, there's turkey, like you know what I mean. So I'll probably track after I've had that meal. I'll have a plate, have that meal, track a couple, glasses of wine, which I track my wine with carbs. I just track it as carbs because I find that to be the most easy and
I
not so
agree.
harsh way to track.
Mhm.
But yeah, essentially that's like I'm jumping around here, but that's typically what I do. I don't try to stress too much. Some holidays I go over, I've went over, but
Right.
you best believe I'm like back on my stuff, whenever I get back to it. So
Yeah, that's an important thing. And I think we should wrap up when we talk about that, which is
yeah,
the
yeah,
importance of this is a special occasion.
right.
It doesn't mean you just fall off until New Year's.
This doesn't set the tone for like the
No,
next
no, no,
week or
no, no, no,
two.
no, no,
Right,
no,
right.
no. And
Yeah,
I do feel like as I go into these conversations, I feel like that's just a given. I think that you can tell by the podcasts I've had, the way I approach everything. I'm never talking about like, okay, we're just taking a week or a month off.
mhm,
That's not what we do. And
right.
that's how people fall back. And that's
Yep.
how people, if you're not, look, if you've been doing this for a long time and you want to take a break, this is a great time to take a break. That's fine. But if you're new to this and you're susceptible, this is the time to go have fun, but make sure you get back on it right away because you're susceptible and people do fall off. And then a week goes by, a month goes by,
Month, yeah.
and
Half
then
the year goes by.
then this is not a healthy thing. This whole
Right.
conversation is around this is everything that we're talking about is healthy. Like this is all proper mindset, proper perspective, goal oriented, but also mental health focus. Like we're talking about productive habits that I think everyone could benefit from hearing in some fashion. So I think it's a known fact that we don't ever recommend just stopping and
No,
quitting and taking
right.
a full on break. So
I
that's
agree
I'm
with
glad you
you.
said something.
I think too the mindset behind it is like I think that's nearly everything. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
apply this stuff. Like it's pretty simple, not like stuff. It's just figuring out where to start, right? And helping. But I think what the importance of this all is the mindset for sure. Like it's definitely if you can have a good mindset around it because it can be something can be so simple yet so super hard, like difficult. And I think
Sure.
having the proper mindset around this all is that's why I hit home with it so much because I feel like if you can establish that, then it's a plug and play process, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah, very,
yeah,
very much so. And then that's also how, I mean, by building these habits, that's how the more you do this, the better skilled you are, the less you stress, the less susceptible you are. I think a lot of
right.
people go into this time of the holidays having stopped in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and that causes a whole nother layer of concern and stress because they know like I'm susceptible right now. I might fall and I might not get back up for a while.
Yep.
So, all right, man. So my last one, and this is how I'm going to approach my holiday. And this is how I approach a lot of special occasions. Again, not prepping. I'm in the middle of my off season too. So I have a lot of flexibility here.
Right.
No photo shoots. No, I could do any approach and I'm good. So but this is my preferred. So it's kind of a form, it's not intermittent fasting, but this is just the best way to like explain it in a way. So basically I'm just sticking to protein during the day. Like I'm gonna wake up. I'll probably wake up a little bit later. Like I'll probably like one thing. It's like if I have the opportunity, because like what am I doing? I'm going. Cliff and I we're doing Christmas Eve over at Cliff's.
Okay,
So
cool.
we're gonna do. I mean, it's gonna be Cliff, the group, and myself. And so I'm assuming we're probably gonna. I don't know what time I'm gonna be doing it, but probably like 6, 7, whatever. So I'll probably sleep till like noon if I can. Like there's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go train. I'll have a protein meal in the morning, and then I'll probably have 30 grams of carbs, something like that, maybe 6 grams of fat. Go train, keep that normal, come back. I'll have a protein shake. By that time, we're not too far away from our meal. So I might have one more protein feeding. Maybe it just depends. And then I'm just going to go eat whatever I want. So I'm not sure what we're having. They're handling dinner, but I'm handling desserts. So that means
Oh, so you know.
that
Yeah,
means
you
there's going to
got
be a
it.
lot of calories involved there because we're going to I'm going to make them play the dessert game. I don't think we've ever played the dessert game, Cliff and
Oh.
I. So yeah, have I told you about the dessert game?
No, I'm interested now. You got my attention on that
Oh, the
one.
dessert game. Okay, so I always show up strapped with the best desserts. So, like the last dessert game we did over at my brother's for Hanukkah, and it was myself and the family, and so I got these like really like high-end bakery cookies that were all covered in all these different. I mean, you got every salted caramel, peanut butter, Nutella. I mean, I go in and I'm like, just give me everything you got. Like, just give me every flavor.
Just throw it all in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So they give me, they give me the 12 flavors that they have. And then we go and we do dinner. And then with the game, we go, all right, so like let's inspect all this. I cut everything up into however many people are going to be there because everyone needs to try one like a quarter of
Piece of
the
something.
flavor.
Yeah.
So I pre-cut everything up, got that set up. Then we all kind of look at the flavors, and my one rule is no complaining. I don't want to hear, oh, this is too sweet. Oh, this is just so much sugar. People tend to do that. They're like,
Yes.
oh, this is just so. No, you're disqualified. There's no
You're out.
complaining. If you can't, yeah, but I don't want to hear that. It's okay if you don't like something and you're like, but whatever, but I don't want to hear any nonsense about like, oh, this is so sweet. Oh, yeah, that's the point.
This is hard on my soft teeth.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I make a hard rule where it's like no complaining. Like I don't want to hear it. Leave then. You don't have to do this. Yes. So anyone that wants to stay, they know that. So then we go, all right, which of these is the best? Like what do we think is going to be the best and what do we think is going to be the worst? Sometimes if you sit there and deliberate for like 5 minutes, like you like, we take it serious. We're like, all right, like, do you think the banana cream? Why do you think that? Oh, that's interesting. What about the salted caramel? Oh, I love cinnamon toast crunch. There's cinnamon toast crunch on that one. So yeah, but then we start with the back end. So we start with what's going to be worst, and then we go, okay, this one looks basic. Let's start here because I think that one's going to be the worst, and then we work our way to what's best. And there's always surprises along the way. Sometimes you're like, wow, I really didn't expect that. Or like a flavor really punches you in the face. And you're like, that was amazing. Let me go back for seconds on that one. And so, but by the time you get to the end, I don't know, like whatever, if there's a dozen and you've had 1/4 of each, you probably had like 3 cookies total, but you're pretty full afterwards.
Oh, for sure.
So, but yeah, that's the game, and it's a whole lot of fun. And so I think I'm gonna get cupcakes. I'm not sure yet. There's a cupcake place that I really like, and then they got some like specialty things in there too. So like, yeah. So so we'll go and we'll play, but there's no this stuff you can't. I don't care how good you are at tracking macros or whatever.
Can't estimate
you can't estimate this shit. This stuff's infinity. Like there's so many calories. Yeah, but I'm replacing my high carb day. My typical high carb day is over 400 carbs. So I already got that. I'm not doing a bridge plan, so I'm not adjusting anything leading up to it. I have in the past, but I'm not doing that. And I'm just going to keep calories low during the day. I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm not sure what that will look like, but how, I won't get to the point where I'm like sick or stuffed or anything like that. I'm really good
Right.
with feel. Again, going back to like skills, you start to learn when you're overdoing it with the calories.
You
Can
do.
feel when you're overdoing it, like that feeling of getting like change, your blood pressure's changing and you're starting to like sweat. Like you should probably, that's probably enough. I also don't go back for leftovers. So my thing is like I keep it to dinner, dessert. I tend to err on the side of caution with dinner because dessert is my preference. People can do whatever they want, do whatever you want. That's like the moral of this whole podcast.
Oh yeah.
Do whatever you want and just, don't like fall off track. But
Right.
I tend to like the desserts more, so I tend to favor most of my calories for that. So like I'll have the dinner and I'm not like let's say I think last year we had pizza. Well, I might have a slice or two of pizza. I'm not having 6 slices of pizza and then dessert and having
right.
I'm like, let me just have whatever, because this is where I plan to spend my calories, and then I will go have that, and then that's it. So like I won't go home and eat anything. I'll just, that's again, like by the time I get home, it's probably gonna be 10, 11 o'clock at night. By the time we've hung out, talked, played games, whatever, did the whole thing. So by the time I get home, it's probably going to be late enough where I'm just like, all right, it's time to go to bed. And then I wake up and then back on my daily macros. And that's it. Like super simple. I mean, how difficult is that? That's like
exactly
as easy as you could possibly get.
No, yeah, I agree, and that's giving a little more context into my like planning too. I'm the same, like I'll probably end up doing the same thing in terms of like the first meal, like mostly protein, because I know what's to come. And yeah, that second meal is just like, hey, it's planned. Yeah, and the second meal is like, well, I know what I'm having in the last meal because we have the same thing every year. It's tradition. It's family tradition. So I know I got that under wraps. At this point, man, I could probably track that meal and be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be
right,
my annual 75 grams of carbs, 50 grams of protein. Well, not 50, like probably not that, like 20 grams. Like I could probably name off macros by the time like year 10 rolls around at this family event, right? It's just like so consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I definitely I feel like my main meal is like that loosely tracked one at our aunt's, but that's really it. But yeah, if I try to go for my high carb day. Honestly, that's what I usually put it on this day. But because I'm not going to bridge any, I'm like you and I are talking deep in off season. We have plenty of energy to play with right now. So
yeah, right.
Yeah,
do you ever feel, what's the word? Not bad, but sometimes because I do have clients that are cutting, I don't like to like show my high numbers in their face or be, having all these like lavish meals, because even though like when I'm cutting and that doesn't affect what I do, there is this thing where like, oh, my coach is doing this, so I can do this and get the same result. And that's not the case, because if you're cutting or like you're dieting for a show, I approach these scenarios very different. This is just how things are lining up this year for both of us. We're both not in prep. So we're able to kind of be a bit more loose. Whereas I really want to make the point, it's important to know that if you have a deadline, you have a deadline. And we've all had deadlines during the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't remember the last 4th of July that I've not, right? Like, I mean, my show seasons typically line up in fall, so I'm cutting through the 4th of July. And when I'm cutting, unfortunately, there's no dessert game in my future when I'm cutting like that. Like I'm very much like, let's get this job done. And when I'm prepping, like that's a completely different approach. That's the extreme approach. Like I don't consider it extreme. That's just, you're just doing what needs to get done.
Yeah, you're just
so
dialing in what you normally do,
Yeah, but that's an approach that like people who are very not used to this might think that's a little obsessive or extreme.
Oh,
so I think once again, going back to like, this is all very individualized, and this is all about you, the listener, what works best for your goals, what works best for your lifestyle, your mental health. So many different things to take into consideration. And that's very normal. Like it's normal to have conversations around this topic. And when I did the Instagram poll, everyone was like, yeah, please, holiday eating, discuss holiday eating. So it's really like, this is super, super common right now. I think the big takeaway and something like I really want to hammer home is be consistent during most of the year. If you got regular weeks, not that you can't slip up here and there, it happens. Get your stuff done, train to whatever level you are at, train to whatever goal you are trying to reach. Nutrition, whether you're counting your calories, macros, whether you're just eating intuitively, make sure you're consistent with that. That way, when you approach a scenario, and it doesn't have to be a holiday, it could just be a vacation. It could just be traveling for work. It could just be, oh my God, like my kids got to go to the hospital. I got to run to the hospital and I'm going to be here for a couple nights. Like whatever. I mean, stuff just comes up. So the more you can stay on your game before and after, the better off you're going to be.
Exactly. The consistency is key. And, one day, like I said, one day, a couple days, even, negligible in the long term. Mm-hmm. So very small percentage. Very, very.
Mike, I'm glad to have you back on. You're the first person that's been on twice. I really appreciate you jumping back on, man. I hope you guys have an amazing holiday.
Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for having me on first, foremost. And I hope you guys have a great holiday too. And definitely stay healthy, stay well, and that's all we can wish for you guys. So,
absolutely. Is there anything you want to promote? I'm going to have your Instagram up, all that information here, but is there anything you want to promote, or even anything that people should be looking out for?
Yeah. So if you guys are interested, definitely Mikey and I, we're on something big here with the group of coaches that we work with here at Unrivaled. So definitely you can always check us out on Unrivaled Coaches. Any of us, like I said, nothing but great, genuine people are backing this program. I mean, this company. So I can't say nothing but nice things about everyone. It's been great. And if you guys want to check us out there, we're at Unrivaled Coaches. We have unrivaledcoaches.com. And then if you want to check out personally, what I'm doing with my content, I put a lot of this mindset out we talked about and approaches. You can find me at Snyder Aesthetics. And yeah, man, that's
2024, man. We'll be ready for you. If anyone needs any help, whether it's lifestyle, whether you have a competition coming up, whether you're just trying to get in shape, do not hesitate to reach out. We live for this. It's what we do. It's what we enjoy. It's what we're passionate about. Our whole team. I think 2024 is going to, I'm super excited. I mean,
me too, man.
I think 2024 is going to be awesome. Right now, it's like it's a dead time for fitness.
Yes.
It really is. This holiday season, people are just so preoccupied with everything. So we will be ready for 2024.
Yes, sir. Yes, we will.
All right, Mike. Sure, we'll talk soon, brother. Thanks again for jumping on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure.
All right, buddy.